Hello everyone, Professor Kurzlook here. So I wanted to talk about being successful at discussion board posts. So many students have been doing discussion board posts for years now. During COVID-19, they really became popular for professors, for high school teachers, I'm sure even younger, to use as a way for students to still connect with one another, for the professor to be able to connect with students. So I've used discussion board posts on and off for much of my career. And so I just wanted to make a video talking about how to succeed in discussion board post assignments. So a few tips, tricks, things I've learned over the years. One is to make sure that if your professor talks about the assignment in the syllabus, that you are familiar with the outlines that it talks about in the syllabus. So for me, for my classes, I, in the syllabus, talk about that you should do your original post by a certain time, and then comment on two of your colleagues, two of your fellow students by another time. So usually initial posts I ask for Friday at noon, and then for the commenting on your fellow students are at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. Now, for my classes, that's pretty normal. If you have other instructors, professors that use discussion board posts, their timeline might be a little different, so do pay attention to that. So when I put the assignment on Canvas, it has the due date as Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. because that's when the whole of the discussion board posts, the original post as well as your two commenting on your fellow students' posts, are due. So don't forget that there is still that earlier deadline from Friday where your initial post is due. I know sometimes students look over that because they're relying on Canvas to give them a due date, give them a deadline, but don't forget that that is the due date for the overall package, not don't forget there are pieces along the way that have separate due dates. So just one thing that in the first couple weeks of class, I'm super flexible with. I know students are getting settled in. It might be your first year at university. In the fall, these might be your first classes. Maybe you're just figuring out how to use Canvas. So I try to give a lot of flexibility on that for the first couple weeks of school. But as we work our way through the semester, as you work your way through your semester with in my class or other classes you're taking, just keep in mind of those due dates. So when it comes to actually doing the discussion board post, there's a few different types of discussion board posts. Some are pretty factual. They might just ask you to pull facts from the reading, to pull specific things from the reading. In my classes, I try to make them a little bit more open-ended, a little bit more analytical, sometimes pulling in your own views, so you can use what we're learning about and reading about and talking about in class to apply to a situation. In there, sometimes your own views can come in, and that opens up the door for some pretty good discussions at times between you and your colleagues. So regardless of it, if it's just purely, pulling information out of the reading to put in the discussion board post, or maybe a little bit more analytical or a little bit more of your opinion, to really do well on discussion board posts, you should still be substantiating it with material from the class. Those are the best answers, not just, well, I think, or well, I feel, but what evidence do you have? If we're talking about public policy or electoral politics or American government, the three courses I'm teaching this semester, even if it is a more opinionated, and certainly if it's a more analytical answer, make sure you're substantiating your claims and substantiating your posts with substantial things from the reading, with substantial evidence from the reading, or from our classroom discussions, or from the PowerPoints. Those make for the best discussion board posts, and those are the ones that throughout the semester get 10s out of 10s. That's usually what my discussion board posts are worth, 10 points. If they're too short, that can be a problem. Not because, hey, I just want students to write this monster of an essay, but because you want to be able to substantiate your claims, your arguments from the reading. And so some of my discussion board posts, I will say it should be about this long between this many words. Other times I leave it up to the students. If it's something that I think maybe can be done a little shorter, some students might want to write a little bit more. So that's something else to pay attention to. Is there a word length? I usually don't put that in the syllabus as much as I put it in a week by week on the discussion board post assignment, because the same length of answer probably isn't required on every question I ask. Some might require a little bit more writing, a little bit more analysis. So do pay attention to that. Remember deadlines and about the length. So one problem students can run into is if they just give a super short answer. That doesn't show that the student thought about the material much, or maybe they didn't complete the reading, maybe they missed class, and then they just throw together a quick discussion board post. You want to avoid that because it's not as solid. Again, you want to write a discussion board post that's lengthy enough to either meet the target length that I've set or your other professors have set, and that it allows you to substantiate your claims. So is there evidence you can bring in from the reading? Is there evidence you can bring in from our classroom discussion? Is there evidence from maybe you're paying attention to politics and there's a news article in the Washington Post or a TikTok video that you saw that is citing something, a source you can use. Those create, when you substantiate your claims and you substantiate your arguments, those are the best discussion board posts. And again, not every prompt's the same. Some prompts are a little bit more opinionated. Then maybe you don't have to bring in quite as much evidence as an analytical piece where you want to make sure you can substantiate your analysis and your claims. So my discussion board posts, and again, everyone's if you have different professors, they're going to handle this differently. I ask that when my students are commenting on their two fellow students' posts, that they try to carry on that conversation. Here at UNC, because we use hybrid courses, we do not meet on Friday. So that means that we don't have that Friday of still interacting in the class. And I know discussion board posts are hard to replicate and mimic that interaction we have in the classroom, but it's still our best way for you to engage with your fellow students about what they're writing, about what you're thinking about. So that's why I tell students, don't just go and comment, I agree, or, oh, that's a great point. Try to carry on that discussion. What did your fellow students say that you think you can build off of? Okay, this is a great point, and look, this evidence substantiates that. Or, oh, this author that maybe we read 2 weeks ago looks at this differently. I wonder why these authors are talking to each other in this way. And then we can see a real discussion. Even if we're only doing discussion board posts for the class because, hey, it's a graded assignment, but it is giving us a gentle push to engage with these ideas that we're learning about and these issues that we're learning about. So I just wanted to wrap up that for discussion board posts. It doesn't have to be a full dissertation, but make sure it's long enough that you are showing that you did the reading, that you thought about the material, that you thought about whatever subject we're learning and talking about, and then bring that into your discussion board posts. I usually don't grade on grammar. I don't grade on, okay, is their Oxford comma used properly? But try to make it so it's readable. So when your colleagues are engaging with it, when your fellow students are engaging, or I'm engaging with it throughout the week as I'm trying to engage with students and talk with them, that we know what you're saying, because that is a skill you want to build, being able to communicate your ideas to the reader. So the reader really knows what you're trying to say, because this is an important thing in the workplace. Even just emailing your colleagues or emailing your employer, your boss at the workplace, you want to make sure you're able to communicate and you're getting your ideas through how you want to. So just making posts that are a decent length, that you're showing that you thought about the material, written in a way that those reading it know what you want to say, and you're really on the path to getting good grades on discussion board posts and hopefully engaging meaningfully with the material and your colleagues. Okay, well, thank you for watching.